Welcome to Oaa Now. Here I'm Sammy Terramina, blog of the Dragon's Den, blog of Inside the OAA. One of the hosts between Terminus and Orion Neighborhood Television. Welcome our friends watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and also those watching on Orion Neighborhood Television. My co-host Ian Locke on sick this week, so here's me, yours truly, feeling solo this week. Got a lot to talk about this week surrounding the boys and girls basketball ranks heading into the week. A lot of interesting stories going on around the league that we have to address. Of course, one of the stories is at Pontiac. Of course, Charles Talley is officially out at Pontiac, and in that one, it's a really interesting dynamic how that has unfolded. When you look at it, but when you look at Pontiac football, it's been really much of a struggle for them. They have not. It's been rough for them. And now Tally no longer being there at Pontiac, and we'll see what happens going forward with that football program surrounding that. So that was my breaking news surrounding the Pontiac football situation there. Let's look at boys basketball. Of course, this week on the blog, I did write my top teams who I'm buying and the top teams I am not buying. When I look at the teams I am buying, the team that I'm mostly buying is Pontiac Phoenix, and the reason why Pontiac is because right now they have picked up a big time win against a really good Clarkson team. What they did to them was this mind-boggling. I mean, here's a team in Pontiac that's in the blue division, and you look at that team and you've got to think Pontiac's a team that they have suffered. They were in the red a couple years ago, struggled, went down the white, and they struggled down there, and then of course it went to the blue. But for them to do what they did to Clarkston, was just absolutely incredible. Now Clarkson blew a 42-39 lead in that game in the third quarter, and they went on and Pontiac just went on a tear, beat them 63-58. Heck of a win for them. Big win for Coach Josh Schroeder. Big win for that team. And the reason why I'm thinking right now is you got to buy high on Pontiac. It's pretty simple. This is a basketball team that is gaining confidence every single day. And that's what everybody asks about them is this is a team that gains confidence. And anytime you gain confidence, you gain trust. And I think that's a credit to Josh Schroeder and his team. Pontiac, I know, has got a senior experienced team. They got the Cole brothers, who are really talented, and they got some others and that JV team at Pontiac last season was very solid. So when you look at on Pontiac, this is a team you got to keep an eye on in the blue division. I mean, people say, well, yeah, Fernio's going to run away with it. I've said for 3-4 weeks now that this division could be as tight as people think it could give it to you. Because you got, besides Ferndale, you got Oxford, who is off to a 3-0 start. You have Royal Oak, who lost a heartbreaker on a buzzer beater and then bounced back to blow out Rochester, Luther, and Northwest. And then you have Pontiac. These are the four teams that I think are going to be battling for that division title all year long. People are going to say, well, Sam, why not Berkeley? I mean, Berkeley, they got athletes. They got a blend of youth and experience, but they did not look good in my opinion against Groves. I think that they battled. Berkeley competed hard, but I just think they just didn't match up well with Groves, and it ended up being at the end of the day, I think Berkeley's a team where they're going to have some struggles, and I don't think right now they're in the top echelon in the blue division right now. I really don't think they are. So when you look at when you look at Pontiac, I mean, anytime a blue team beats a red team, that's a big deal. It really is a big deal. When you look at, of course, the Pontiac Phoenix, you know, this is a team that's went through a lot of issues, a lot. And for them to get that win against Clarkson and for them to get a win against Clawson on the road, this is a team worth watching. This is a team that is worth watching, worth your attention this week. And they got 3 games. They got 3 games this week. All 3 of them should be interesting games. Pontiac Academy of the Excellence, Mount Clemens, and I got to figure out what the other one was. I don't think it's Notre Dame Prep, but Pontiac right now looking really good right now. And for them to go and send a statement to say, well, we just went and beat Clarkson. We just beat a really good basketball team in the Wolves. I mean, Clarkston, a lot of people say they're down, but they're still Clarkston, and they got a whole new coach, new system, new players. But most of those players have played in the system before, but to beat a team like Clarkson, that's huge. That is really huge. And for Pontiac, maybe they're back. I mean, it's the first victory, I believe, since 2011 for a Pontiac team to beat Clarkston. I think that was when Pontiac was still either Pontiac North or Pontiac Central at the time when they beat Clarkston. But still, it's a huge accomplishment for Pontiac to go in there and beat a really good opponent like Clarkston on that Tuesday night inside Green Gym. I mean, it had everything work perfectly for them. Everything just did. And now people have to take Pontiac extremely seriously now because this is a basketball team that nobody wants to see. They really don't want to see the Pontiac Phoenix because this is a team that could surprise some folks this year. They really much will. I expect they will. And I think this is a really talented team, a really dangerous team going forward that could surprise some folks. I look at the other teams around the Blue Division, of course. Royal Oak, as mentioned, they lost in that buzzer beater to Waterford Kettering. I watched that film at least 3-4 times, saying to myself, that was just a good shot by the kid that hit the 3 for Kettering. It was just a good shot. It was a contested 3. But I was really surprised that Royal Oak gave up 63 points. That is not like Royal Oak to do that. And I think that's something that Aaron Smith, the coach over there at Royal Oak, has addressed. They know Royal Oak traditionally is a defensive first team. They've always been that. And for them to lose that game on a buzzer beater against a Kettering team that's solid. Now, Kettering, we'll know a lot about them on Tuesday night when they play Oxford. But I think when I looked at Kettering's schedule, I really was not impressed with the teams they played. I mean, Harrison, I know they're set 2-2. We'll talk about them in a minute. We'll look at them. We'll also look at the chances in the Blue Division. We'll talk about Oxford in a couple minutes here, but I think when you look at the divisions, how it's unfolded there, when you look at Royal Oak, everything right now goes through Jovan Martin, and Jovan Martin's the key for Royal Oak for them to have a very good year. And if he's on his game, I think the Ravens could be a team in the conversation in the blue. I mean, I've already stated that for the record. They could be a team mentioned in the conversation in the blue. Let's go to Ferndale. They have not played a game in a week. They'll be tested by Groves. Then they'll go on another break because they do play during Christmas. They are in that round ball tournament. They do host the Motor City round ball, by the way. So I think it's really interesting to see what Ferndale has, how they responded ever since their loss to Flint Beecher. So that's going to be a question for Coach Ron Rickman and his team. How they respond after losing that type of game to Flint Beecher. Let's look at others. Oxford, the Wildcats is a team that up to a 3-0 start. They beat Adams 49-40. I really think that you know, I feel like a lot of these teams are taking advantage of Adams' injuries right now. When you look at Adams, of course, they're still without Peyton Prescorn and Gunnar Walters. Of course, Walters still out with that injury. I would expect him back probably before the Farmington game. Prescorn, I wouldn't expect back until after their before their Christmas matchup with Dearborn Divine Child, who stunned Bloomfield Hills all of a sudden by 15. But Oxford, they have a senior heavy lineup. They do start Trey Townsend, who's really good. Really good player. You still have Michael Raish there, but Nolan Heiler's played, has developed a little bit for Oxford. He has developed in that 3-point shooter. Pretty much in that role I remember one of their players had last year. Pretty similar role to that. But Steve Laidlaw right now has his team going at 3-0 right now. But when you look at Oxford, it's how do you respond on the road? And I think, Oxford's playing the games they're capable of playing, and they're winning the games they're supposed to be winning. But it's how this team responds on the road. So I'm curious to see how they do against Royal Oak when they go on the road next week. They got Waterford Kettering this week. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think they have enough talent. I think they're better talent-wise than Kettering, but you never know. You never know. These two teams could see each other in districts. So that's a possible road right there between Oxford and Kettering. But it's going to be a big game for both these teams. It really will be. So it'll be really interesting with them going forward. Right now, when I look at the blue, I still think, I think Ferndale is going to have a wake-up call. When you look at it, I still believe they're going to have a wake-up call. So we'll see what happens with the blue division outlook right there. Let's go to the white division. As mentioned, we talked to Adams a little bit more. They did get George Girage back for the Oxford game. Thought he played okay in his first game back for Brad Crichton. But this will be a different team when Gunnar Walters comes back. Gunnar Walters is going to make that team go along with them, Ethan Emerson. And of course, Emerson, we know, is a 3-point shooter. Can definitely shoot it. And then you have Jake Emerson, who I think is going to likely be going on the bench. Jake Schuler. Then you have likely when Prescorn comes back, he'll probably play a lot more. And then of course you have but I do like Schuler. I do like Carson Adams. I think they're gonna help in the long haul. The only thing I'm a little concerned about with Brad Crichton's team is how many players he's got. When I count his roster 10 players, that's a little concerning for me. That is really, really concerning. And of course, you're looking at a team like Farmington, who looked really impressive against Harrison. Of course, 79-61. Of course, they have their 3-headed monster, but I really like the fact they got some rebounding, though. They do got some rebounding, and I think that's going to help Farmington go in the long haul. When I look at the white race, I still think it's going to be Adams, Farmington. But, I'm starting to buy Southfield. I'm really starting to buy the Warriors. And the Warriors are a team that could do some significant damage. And the reason why I say that is, everybody says that winning against Southfield Christian is huge. It is huge because they went on the road and did it over there. And they had no problem with them, Trillium Academy. Trillium Academy is terrible for starters. They are not that good. Trillium Academy. I don't know why Southfield played them, but I didn't think they were that impressive. But either way, Southfield sits 2-0. Got a tough schedule still. They got to play Kalamazoo Central. It's not going to be an easy game for them. Southfield, they're a team that under Daryl Buchanan, I think that they're buying. I think that's a team worth watching. I mean, they're a team on the rise, in my opinion. They have to. They are a team that if they can find anybody, I mean, like some supporting cast for Cameron McEvans, I think this is going to be a really dangerous team going forward. I'm looking at all the other teams here. Stony Creek. I thought Stony Creek, they battled hard against Warren DeSalle. I thought a team better talent wise than they were, but they battled, they competed hard. Got it within 9 or 8 a couple times, but Warren DeSalle's experience was proven to be the difference. Stony Creek, they've got some players. They have got some true players who can definitely play in that level. They do. I mean, I'm not being mean there, but they've got some players. The only issue that I got is the rebounding issue. Of course, that's where Pat Galley's at. They got others that can play in the interior as well, but that's the only concern I have with Stephen Orgrove's team. Stony Creek right now, I put in my the jury's still out on this team because I need to see a little bit more before I can assess Stony Creek. Now, Avondale is a team I'm really, really concerned about because I thought Avondale looked really good. I mean, I thought Avondale would be really good. They got all these athletes, really talented players, but they're off to an 0-3 start, and that's shocking. You know, of course, yeah, you play Lake Orion, you play Oxford. Lake Orion's a really good team this year. Oxford's got a good team this year. But Bloomfield Hills, to me, that was inexcusable. Only put 35 points against Bloomfield Hills when you have all that talent there. I mean, when you have all that talent. But then again, Waterford Mott, when Avondale played them last year, Avondale struggled heading in that game with Waterford Mott, and they went into Waterford and beat them. And who knows? Could it be the same result that could happen? It's possible. I mean, Waterford Mott did give Avondale hope to turn the season around, and they did that last year. They did that to them, and they beat Waterford Mott. So I'm curious to see how that matchup goes on Tuesday night in Auburn Hills. It's going to look. I think it could be really interesting. I think it's going to be a knockout, drag-on game between those two teams. Avondale right now, I've got some concerns about them going forward. I do. I do have some concerns about them going forward. Troy Athens, of course, got their first win against Mount Clemens, 55-50. Really did not look good against Lake Orion the other night. They gave up, I believe, 77 to the Dragons, which was just remarkable. But this is a young basketball team still. But if you're Dave Scott and you get that big win against Mount Clemens at home, that's huge for you. But I also learned something, too. Young teams are usually good at home. And we'll talk about young teams being good at home, like a la Clarkston, like a la Troy Athens. They have young teams, and they're pretty good at home. And they are really good at home. And then let's look at Rochester. Sit 0-3. Have not scored 40 points yet. And all three of the losses, they have not gotten above 40. That's a concern. That is a big concern. And the reason why it's a big concern is because, you know, you're going in the white season and your losses were to Troy, Fraser. You lose 41-34 in that one. Fraser's a middle of the pack team in the MAC. And then of course you lose your to Warren Mott. Now Warren Mott's a good team. Warren Mott's a pretty good team. But losing to Fraser 41-34, that's inexcusable. Now, yeah, you lose players like Hunter Schattler, LaMarco Gulich, but you've got to understand the rest of those players that started last year. If you're a Cameron Kagans, if you're a Corey Gulich, you're Ryan Noble, Drake Reed, I mean, you guys have to wake up. They have to wake up and realize you got to do this more to scoring. You guys got to be more productive. If you're Vance Kirkwood, if I'm Vance Kirkwood, I'm saying to those guys, you guys got to do more. You guys got to give me more. People are saying like, we've got to get over 40. We've got to score over 40. We have not done that at all this year. That's a concern going forward. That is a big time concern going forward. And that's scary. That is scary, to say the least. That is really scary. Let's go to the white to the red. Of course, talked about Clarkston winning over Orchard Lake St. Mary's 62-46. I thought the Wolves looked the part. They had the balanced scoring. Matt Nicholson led the way with 19 points, 14 rebounds in that one. Of course, Fletcher Lawyer had a nice game. He had 15 points. Keegan Wasilic making his return to the starting lineup. He had 13 points. But when you look at the Clarkson Wolves, they're going to be as good as Matt Nicholson takes them, and also as good as their two freshmen, Wasilic and Fletcher Lawyer, as they take them. They're going to be as good as those three takes them. Now, yeah, they got some energy players like Jake Jensen, Josh Luther, Desmond Mills Bradley, but still, they're going to be as good as those two freshmen and Matt Nicholson take them. That's pretty much simple. And they did not look good against Pontiac. They had 2 games where they blew leads. They ended up losing both of them, having leads in the fourth quarter. And it's tough. Stevenson's a decent team. And then Pontiac, we just talked about Pontiac. So I think when you look at Clarkston, they got an interesting week this week. They got Lakeland Tuesday, which they should win that. Even though Lakeland is better than people think. And then you have a tough one Friday night with Wayne Memorial. That is absolutely brutal. Now, I asked myself this question. Who was the tougher opponent Friday? Orchard Lake St. Mary's or Lapeer? I think Lapeer is better. I think, Orchard Lake St. Mary's has got a D1 recruit, Wisconsin commit Alonzo Bowman. But I think Lapeer is a more better team than Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And Lapeer gave Lake Orion everything they could handle. Now, the Dragons won that 160-48, but when you look at the concerns Lake Orion has right now, injuries could be a concern for this team. It could very well be. We don't know the injury on Jack Cummins yet, but I know he's been hurt. And then, of course, Drew Van Heck's not playing 100% right now. Got a nagging injury right now, but he's playing. But Lapeer, I got to give a lot of props to them. They're a physical breed of basketball. That was a classic 1980s game. Just beautiful. Physical, battle in the trenches. It was a really good game at Lake Orion on Friday night. Really good game. And the reason why I'm saying Lapeer was a better opponent than Orchard Lake St. Mary's is because both teams play different brand of basketball. And I gotta give Lake Orion coach Jim Mans a lot of credit for playing that game against Lapeer. Now it'll be interesting what they have when they play Romeo. So it'll be really interesting there. But I like this Dragon team going forward. They have the pieces. They have the talent to do it. And I think right now, but they have to stay humble. If they stay humble, look out. West Bloomfield had a really rough time this week. They had a really rough time. Now taking on Detroit Cass Tech and then River Rouge, that's not easy games at all. But it got them better. It got Jeremy Dennis' team better. But but you want to give West Bloomfield a pass here, and I'm going to give them a pass. West Bloomfield it was hard. And they still got a brutal schedule. They got to play Warren D. South still. I think they got Macomb, Dakota as well on that conference schedule. That's brutal. That's very brutal. And that's not even talking about the Red yet. That's not even talking Red yet. Now, Oak Park the other day almost blew a 14-point lead on Saturday night against Chicago Corliss. They almost blew that. And they had to survive 61-59 thanks to a block by Malik Carr. Now, I've seen Malik Carr play. He is a great athlete. There are a lot of Division I schools going after him for both football and basketball. If somebody would offer Carr a dual scholarship, that would be perfect. Because he reminds me a little bit of Matt Trannon. He can play both. He can play both football and basketball, but he does remind me a little bit of Matt Trannon when he was at Michigan State. And that says a lot. And Matt Trannon was a heck of a receiver in East Lansing. He was a heck of a receiver there. Got to give him credit there. But Oak Park right now sits 1-1. Very interesting schedule looming for them. We'll see what they have going forward. North Farmington sits at 3-0. Really not been impressed with non-conference. Blew out Wyandotte, who I didn't think was really impressive. And then, but they're out to a 3-0 start. We'll know a lot about them in a couple weeks when they play Detroit Cass Tech. And then you look at Troy. They're off to a 3-0 start. As said, they did beat Groves. It was a really good one, 50-43. But we'll know a lot about them when they play Troy Athens. It's a rivalry game. Always is. Rivalry games are always the most fun. Got Troy Athens this weekend. That'll be really interesting, to say the least there. And then, of course, we have Bloomfield Hills. They looked good against Avondale, being 48-35 behind Mason Canfield. And then what happened against Dearborn Devon Child? That was shocking, stunning. To only score 33 points against Dearborn Devon Child. That is shocking. That is just shocking. But we'll see what happens for them going forward. We shall see what happens for them going forward. And that is my thoughts on the OA boys circuit. I didn't talk much about the rest of the blue teams. Harrison, as mentioned, looked good against the Academy teams, but did not look good against Farmington. Hazel Park, they're going to start getting back into action. They only played one game where they were just blown up by Warren Fitzgerald. Did not look good there in that one. So, Seaholm sit 0-3. A lot of pressure right now over there at Seaholm. A lot of pressure over there. I'm going to go talk about some girls basketball stuff. Of course, we're going to go from the blue division to the white and then to the red. Let's look at the blue division. The team I think still to beat in that blue is Rochester. Even though Rochester did not look very good against they did not look very good against Waterford Mott. They lost by 13 in that one. Rochester playing and then they didn't look good against Avondale at all, but even though they fought in that one. But Jeff Haney's got something down there. He's got something in that team over there. And there's a reason why I think why Rochester could be one of the favorites in the blue division. Now people are going to say, well, Berkeley might have a say and CO might have a say. Sure, both those teams might have a say. But right now, to me, the favorite right now has to be Rochester. It has to be the Falcons with the way that team is built. The Bears, they're 3-0 right. They're 2-0 right now. Looking really good. 2 wins on the road. Beat Warren Mott. But to me, I have not been impressed with Berkeley. I really have said about Berkeley is the Bears, to me, the Bears, to me, they haven't been impressive. I mean, like, sure, they've won 2 games, 35-30 against Shrine, and then, of course, beating Warren Mott by 27. But we'll know a lot about them this week, especially Tuesday when they play Waterford Mott. And I think Waterford Mott is a very good team. I know Michelle Scar very well. And that could be a very, very interesting scenario how that unfolds. It could be. Seaholm, on the other hand, of course, new coach and Chris Manchester. I didn't think they had to escape against Farmington. They started off terrible, down 21-7 early, but then came back, forced overtime, won 46-43. And then against Lake Orion, they really, really did not play well in that game against the Dragons. And I think, a lot of that, I think has to go. Seal made a lot of mistakes in that game. They did against Lake Orion. And I think a lot of that has to do with the Lake Orion defense. But, we'll see what happens with this team. Seaholm's got to play Clawson coming up, and that's going to be really interesting to see what they have. Clawson's a team that really doesn't impress you, but that's a game Seaholm can win. I mean, we'll see what happens there. And then, of course, Pontiac. Pontiac almost blew a 20-point lead to Mount Morris, forced overtime, and then had to escape a 53-52 win over Mount Morris. What does that say? Pontiac's off to a 2-0 start, but I'm not buying into the girls' program right now. I really am not, because they did not look good against Mount Morris. They just did not look good in that one, and you blow a 20-point lead to force overtime. That's not good. That is not good. Oak Park, Hazel Park have not played a game yet. We'll know a lot about them this week. They do have some games this week. So that's my thoughts on the Blue Division. When you look at those teams, and Ferndale. Ferndale's off to a 1-1 start. Ferndale's scoring a lot of points. I mean, they did beat Advanced Tech 51-44. Oh, they fell to Advanced Tech 51-44, but they won 46-22 over Madison. So I like where Christina Nagel's taking that team. I think that she's done a magnificent job building that team. And I think at the end of the day here, I think they're going to be better off in the long haul. I really do. So that's my thoughts on the Blue Division. Let's go to the White. Let's go to the White Division. And this is going to be the most unique division all year, I think, in the entire girls basketball docket, because I think the league in that White is really going to be really competitive. Let's look at I'm going to look at the bottom teams first in that division. That's Farmington. Farmington did not look good against Royal Oak. They were blown out 48-28 by the Ravens. Now, Royal Oak's a really good team, but it's been a rough week for Farmington. They lose 46-43 in overtime, and then they lose 48-28 to Royal Oak. I mean, not a good start for the Falcons. Really, it's not. I think for Farmington, they got one really good player in Isaiah Ramson. She had a big game against Seaholm. I think he had 16 in that one. But got to give Farmington a lot of credit in that game against Seaholm. But Seaholm, a lot of credit for them, how they won that game. Good win for them. Really good win for them in that one. But for Farmington right now, 0-2, kind of a rough start for them. It's been really rough for them. And they've got an interesting schedule coming up, interesting stretch of games coming up. When you look at Farmington, they got to play Walled Lake Northern. They got to play at Walled Lake Northern against South Lyon. They need that game real bad. If they can win that game on Saturday, I think it's going to help them maybe change your season around. I think it'll help them out a lot. I think it will. Let's look at Adams. Adams is another team that could be in for a interesting year. They they have three very good players. Manacler, they have three very good players. But they lost 67-54 to Stony Creek. Stony Creek, I call it T. Feinbaum. We'll talk about Stony Creek in about a couple minutes. But for Adams, I know Shea Lewis's team is trust the process. And her team is a work in progress right now. And I think when you look at Adams right now, the way that they're playing, I think Adams will be fine going forward. I really do. Now they got 2 games this week. They got a Saturday affair Waterford Mott. That's going to be a really good game, I think, between Adams and Mott, seeing where they're at. And then of course you have Stony Creek. And then of course you have Bloomfield Hills, which that's not going to be an easy game. Because if Bloomfield Hills cannot guard their guards on the road against a very good 3-point shooting team like Bloomfield Hills is, I think Adams could be in some trouble in that game. And they were in some trouble in that game last year when Bloomfield Hills went in there and just and beat them. The only concern I have with Bloomfield Hills is their interior. That's the only advantage Adams has that matchup. It's their interior. If they can go inside against Bloomfield Hills, get Jordan Banks in the foul trouble, then I think Jeff Rubin's got some problems. But right now for Shea Lewis, 54 points is a pretty good number. Pretty good number. You just got to make sure you don't allow 60. That's what I would say to Shea Lewis right now. But I would say I would give your team maybe a B minus right now. Because offensively you got the players to score. Defensively is where you're gonna need to work on. And that's what my thoughts are on Adams. Work in progress with Adams. Look at Troy. They're a mystery team. Troy is a real mystery team. They lost 36-25 to Waterford Mott. But then they knocked off Sterling Heights Stevenson 39-26. Simon Bottle's got some pieces. He's got some pieces. He's got experience too. Look at players like Emily Olsen, Athena Sampson. Simon Bottle's got some pieces to work with. And I think for Troy right now, they've got 2 winnable games this week coming up. They got Utica Ford and then Seaholm. Those are games that I think they have good chances of winning both those games. I think Utica Ford's a little tricky in that one. Seaholm, of course, I think that's going to be on the road, which going to Seaholm is always a trap. It always is a trap game for them. It is a trap place, So I think Troy will have their hands full, but 2 winnable games for sure for the Colts going forward. Troy Athens, they sit 0-1. They were blown out by 30 to Farmingdale's Mercy, 69-39. Friday night, Stony Creek, that's a big one for them. They got Milford. That is a big one for them, going against a very well-coached team in Dave Brown. I think that's going to be a really unique matchup there. They also got to play Groves this week, who did not look good at all against Oxford. It just did not look very good at all against Oxford. It's difficult. They lost by 10 now. Groves did lose a lot from a year ago. We'll talk about Groves in a couple minutes. But for Athens, for them, they have to rely a lot on Isabel Crum. They have to rely on the Stewart sisters to carry them. And I think that's where Stacey Klump's going to have her team right now. Relying on those 3 players right now. Because those 3 players give them right now their greatest chance to win right now. Is with those 3. So right now, I would put Adams ahead right now of Troy and Troy Athens right now. Both Troy schools. Where they're at. I'm very concerned about Athens defensively, how they defend. Now, yeah, they played Farmington's Mercy, but Mercy did not look good the other night in their MAC versus Catholic League game. They did not look good the other night. I think they played Macomb, Dakota, and Macomb, Dakota got some size. They got some size when you look at Macomb, Dakota. But Mercy just did not look good the other night in that one. When I look at West Bloomfield, this is a team worth watching. Now, they did look good against Lakeland, winning 46-21. A lot of experience back, but they'll be tested for sure this week. They got 3 games, though. Walled Lake Western, River Rouge, and then they got to play at Walled Lake Northern Saturday. That's going to be tough for West Bloomfield. That's going to be tough for Burt Mosley and his team. Playing those type of teams. River Rouge is solid. They are very solid. Walled Lake Western, of course, we know what they have with Steve Emmert and his team there. And then of course, Walled Lake Northern. Walled Lake Northern is a mystery team, very similar to that to Troy. Did not look good against Royal Oak, and they had a nice win the other night against North Farmington. But West Bloomfield, everybody back, experience. They got a ton of experience. We'll see what happens with them going forward. I mean, West Bloomfield's a team that could do some significant damage this year. One of the favorites mentioned in the white division. We'll see what they have. And then there's Oxford. Oxford looked good against Groves the other night, 43-33. Ashley Hirschman, Lauren Mether, Helena Cato, 3 very outstanding talents for Coach Rachel Breyer. But it'd be interesting to see what Oxford has. I mean, they're off this whole week. They got to play Romeo, which I think that's going to be a really interesting game. Romeo's off to a 2-0 start. Blew out Chippewa Valley. So Oxford right now off to a 2-0 start. Off to a 1-0 start. Actually 1-1 start. Of course, they lost to Walled Lake Central the other night. Walled Lake Central's a very good team. But we'll see where they're at right now. We shall see where they're at. And then there's Lake Orion. The Dragons had a nice 1-0 had a nice game against Seaholm, winning 48-25 under Coach Bob Bridges. But they're going to get tested this week. I think Midland's going to be a game where you look at Midland's record, very deceiving, 0-3. Now, yes, Anna Tuck is out for the year with an ACL. They got some players. They have got some players who can definitely play. Like Olivia Carpenter, I think Jordan Morgan, who can shoot the threes. Olivia Carpenter can play. They got a very good junior, Big, who is outstanding, very athletic. Midland's a very small but athletic team. They are very athletic, and they are well coached under Coach Clovis up there. Really well coached. So I think Lake Orion will have their hands full on this week. Then they need to play Grove, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens with them going forward. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Dragons have. I mean, Midland's going to be a really tough game for them this week. Midland's going to be a really tough game for them. I mean, Midland's an outstanding team. Their record is very deceiving at 0-3, but they have looked good. I mean, even though in their losses, they lost to a good Bay City Western team, lost to a good Mount Pleasant team, and they lost to a good Kingsley team. All those 3 teams are going to be all right this year. And look at the Red division. The Red, Groves, as mentioned, did not look very good against Oxford. Now, yeah, they've went through a lot of changes. What Jessica Weaser's team has, they've gone through a lot of changes, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see where they're at going forward. Emily Felix, their other big. You got Ellie Roopridge, another one who's really talented as well. They're going to have to carry him through this stretch. And I think it's going to be a challenge for them going forward to see where they're at. But Grove's very interesting week coming up. They got Troy Athens at home. They got Lake Orion also at home as well. So it'll be a challenge for Troy Athens. It's going to be a real challenge for them going forward. Especially going into the red division, seeing where they're at. It's going to be a challenge. That's for sure. North Farmington did not look good at all against Walled Lake Northern. They just did not look good at all. And this is a basketball team I am really, really concerned about going forward. They last two games, they did not look good. And it's a concern going in. When you look at the Raiders, I think the loss of their big, who is really hurt, and I know it's putting a lot of pressure on Maya Kelly and Molly Simpson to take care of the load right now. But they don't really have a true big. They don't have a true big, and that's a big concern going forward. Now they got some games coming up where I think they could win some games. They got Troy Cornerstone, which I think should be a win for them. And they got to play South Lyon East. South Lyon East, a really good team. So I think North Farms is going to have a lot of issue this week. I think they're going to have some trouble. It would not surprise me at the end of the weekend, North Farmington's 1-3. It really wouldn't surprise me. I'm hoping Jeff Simpson get this thing fixed real quick because this is un-North Farmington-like. Very un-North Farmington-like for them to start 0-2. Really unusual. Bloomfield Hills, of course, they have not played a game yet, but we'll know a lot about them, and we know what they have. Now, they got two games that will be very interesting with Wall Lake Central. I think that's on Friday night over at North Farmington. That's going to be really interesting. And then, of course, they got to play Adams on Tuesday. I think that's going to be another interesting matchup. But as I mentioned with Jeff Rubin's team, they have 3-point shooters. You look at players like Mary Machine, you look at Grace Getz, you look at they can all shoot the ball at a very good high percentage. It's what happens when you don't shoot it at a high percentage. Then you got some issues. Now, yes, Bloomfield Hills got a big in Jordan Banks. And I think Jordan Banks is a really outstanding talent. But you look at that matchup, you look at Bloomfield Hills. If Banks gets into any sort of foul trouble, that could be some problems for Jeff Rubin and his team. It could very well be. But right now, Bloomfield Hills, to me, I think they could be ready to go on a roll soon. And I think that'll be a good thing for them going forward. So we'll see what happens with Bloomfield Hills with them going forward there. Let's look at Stony Creek. I call this team Team Feinbaum. The Cougars. Coach Kellen James and his team. Off to a 1-1 start. Knocked off Adams. 67-54 the other night. Did not look good against a very good Chandler Park Academy team. Now, yes, Chandler Park Academy is really good. They are really good. And nothing you could do. Just tip your cap off to them. I like the experience they got there. I like Emily Eckhout. I think Megan Solik, to me, is she reminds me, she's like that. If you put Megan Solik in a fly swatter, she's like that little pest that could get steals and gets you some points real quick. She reminds me of that. But she's doing very well for Kellen James. And that says a lot. But she gets steals. She's that girl she's like that little pest nobody wants to see. But there she is. Getting in passing lanes, getting steals. That's the key to Kellen James' team. They got some size. I like that team. I like them involved. She can contribute. They got some bigs. I mean, Kellen James' team is outstanding. It's just when you look at that team inside out, and you study that program. This is a team that looks really, really good. And I think Stony Creek will be a good team. I really do. No matter what people think about them. I think Stony Creek, in my opinion, is the best team in the city of Rochester. I say that a lot. And I think Stony Creek is the best team in the city of Rochester. And it'll show. That team is going to get better and better as the season goes. I like that team. I really do. Let's look at Clarkston. John Wyer's team. Lost a tough one to Ypsilanti Arbor Prep, 60-52. But I was really impressed with the players they had down there. I was really impressed. They looked really good. I mean, now, yes, they got a very tough schedule ahead of them. They got to play Detroit Renaissance. It's going to be a really tough game for them. Then they got to play Walled Lake Western at Walled Lake Northern. Yikes. I want to know is who in the world booked that non-conference schedule. That is brutal. I feel bad for Coach John Wyer and his team. I really do. To play that type of schedule, after fresh off a state quarterfinal appearance last year, it's brutal. That is very, very brutal. Just hard to imagine. Really is. And then let's look at our last team in the red in girls basketball. It's Southfield Arts and Tech. They're off to a 1-1 start, playing a really tough schedule. As mentioned, picked up a big win against Ann Arbor Huron, but then lost this past weekend to Saginaw Heritage, of course, defending Class A state champions. Only lost them by 2. I was kind of really surprised how that unfolded. And, of course, we know what Saginaw Heritage has when you look at players like Mariah Joyner, Shrine Strickland Gills. And Southfield, they got down by 8 or 9, battled back, cut it within 2. I think there's a lot of optimism surrounding the Southfield Arts and Tech team going forward. And this is a basketball team that I don't think anybody wants to see come postseason time. Because this has been a team mentioned as a possible state contender. And the reason why I think that this team could be a state contender is because of who they got back. When you look at players like Cheyenne McEvans, Alexis Johnson, and then, of course, you add transfers like Soto Barnes coming over from Toledo, coming over from Ohio, Jasmine Worthy coming from Groves. Then you have Keanu Wilkins, who formerly was a Detroit Renaissance transfer, but came over. I mean, just outstanding talent, outstanding players that Coach Michelle Marshall has with that team. Now, when I look at Southfield's schedule coming up, I mean, Southfield Arts and Tech schedule coming up this week, they do have to play. River Rouge and Flint Carmen Ainsworth this week, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens there for the Warriors. So we'll see what happens they have there with that one. And I also forgot to mention one more team in the white division before I sign off, and 2 more teams. Avondale, I think, is a team that worth watching in the white. Looked really good against Rochester, beating 57-33, and Rochester Hills Lutheran Northwest. They have a lot of talent back, a lot of experience when you look at players like Olivia Russell and Carrie Lee. They got others as well that could do some significant damage as well. So Avondale, West Bloomfield, Lake Orion, Oxford, Adams are going to be the teams worth watching in the white this year. In the red division, I forgot to name one more team as well, and that's Royal Oak. The Ravens off to a 2-0 start. Not really the impressive schedule they played. They blew out Walled Lake Northern 66-25, and then blew out Farmington 48-28. And the blowout should continue this week because I don't think they're going to get by. I think they'll get by. They're going to get by Walled Lake. They're going to get by Novi and then Royal Oak Shrine. Of course, Royal Oak Shrine is a rivalry game between those 2 teams. I think those 2 teams play each other also in boys. basketball this week. But Royal Oak right now, they have to be a team worth in the conversation because for the red title. I mean, now do I think are they a better talented team in Southfield Arts and Tech? Probably not. But when I look at Royal Oak, they're clearly, in my opinion, the second best team in that red division right now. When you look at what Royal Oak has. Now, when you look at the district, that could be a whole nother animal because Royal Oak's in that same district as Birmingham Marion. And I have not been impressed with Birmingham Marion. Even though they got a young team, had a nice win the other night against Grosse Pointe North. But Birmingham Marion and Royal Oak at Birmingham Marion could be the same. It's probably like the scene of the crime for Royal Oak going to Birmingham Marion. Likely we'll see Birmingham Marion coming forward. So we will see what happens in that match. But Royal Oak right now, I would say the stock is high right now for the Ravens. I think that Royal Oak right now is a team worth watching, and I think we'll be better off going forward. So those are my thoughts right now on all 23 teams in boys basketball. And those are also my thoughts on all 22 teams in girls basketball right now. If you want to take a look at my blog article, I do a stock high, stock medium, stock low every week on the blog at Sammy_Termina at blogspot.com. So we'll see where everybody is at going forward. And other sports to mention, of course, hockey, Bloomfield, Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham United right now looks like to be the team to beat in hockey. Just knocked off Lake Orion 5-4 in a really good one at Detroit Skate Club. But you got some others. You got Rochester United who's solid, Stony Creek solid, Lake Orion solid, Octasash Avondale solid. But we'll see what happens in the world of hockey. Wrestling's off to a good start. Of course, Clarkston, Oxford, two of the top favorites there in that. And then, of course, you have cheerleading underway as well. They just had their first jamboree. So I'll be curious to see what happens there in cheerleading. And of course, powerlifting is underway for some schools in the area. So winter sports right now fully underway, going on right now in the world of high school sports. Okay, now I'm going to sign off here, everybody. Everybody take care this week. This is Sammy Termina here, signing on off. Take care. God bless all. And see you all next week, everybody. Take care, everybody.